Hello. Since I'm a Luddite, and I don't really have a lot of, let's say, facility with complicated video software to do screen capture, I'm doing the poor man's version of screen capture and putting a camera in front of the screen. Just a little quick tutorial on how to put together a patch in this new processor, and it takes only a few minutes. Now you can see on the video, up at the top here, this is just called a template patch. I start with a clean patch, absolutely nothing on it, and here's the sound of it right here. Right? Nothing on it whatsoever. Now we're going to add things. I'm going to sort of demonstrate the differences. Now, we're going to start first with the amp we want to use. That's the preamp section here. And the one that I've sort of fallen in love with is just the clean amp. It's modeled on a JC120, the Roland Jazz Chorus 120. And it's a good clean amp, and it sounds really good. And then you can add distortion effects to it in the old days like I used to do with pedals. I had a Fender Twin, and at first I had a Boss distortion pedal, and then I bought the heavy metal pedal and the delay pedal and the chorus pedal and all that stuff. Well, I'm going to start with the clean, the JC120, and then we're going to add different things. Now here's the sound of just nothing on it. And now we're going to add the preamp, the JC120. Now I've got the EQ on the amp set flat, but what I did here was I sort of pulled down my mids on the amp. The way that I normally run my amp is I scoop my mids off just a little bit, and then I let the distortion kind of, give me the tone that I want. Very low gain on this. I don't really want this to clip on a clean sound. And I'm using my Ibanez, my new Ibanez. So now we're going to add compression to that, right? Compression. These are your distortion effects, your preamp, your pedal effects. You can assign your expression pedal to do different things. Modulation effects, FX2, which I generally use just for EQ, delay, and then reverb. Okay? So we're going to add, here's a nice clean sound with some compression. And again, I tend not to use compression too much. I do want it to kind of smooth out my highs and my lows to sort of keep a good consistent sound while still giving me, control, volume control with the pick. So now we're going to add a pitch shift. Now this is a non-cycling chorus. I like chorus on clean sounds. Actually, let's take a look at chorus first. Let's listen to the chorus. I'll let you hear the chorus. I prefer the pitch shift instead. You'll hear the cycling sound of the chorus. Now that's not bad. That's the chorus sound. I like the pitch shift, which is really, really sweet. It gives me that doubled guitar sound, but without the cycling sound in the background. All right, now I've got it sort of, I'm going to turn that off for just a second because we're going to play with the distortion effects just real quick. We're going to turn the compression back on. Now we're going to play with the distortion effects. Right here, here's our distortion effects, and I use this. I select what I want from here. This is a turbo distortion. I got the drive up kind of high and the tone with a little bit more high end to it, and the level up just a little bit. But here's the sound. Here's the clean sound with just the JC120 and the compressor. And now we'll kick on the turbo distortion. Now, we'll add the pitch shift back in. I talked in one of the other videos about how much I loved Eddie Van Halen's sound on the the 5150 album. He carried that into the OU812 album, but it began to evolve, and I can't confirm it, but I'm fairly certain that he used some sort of pitch shift on the 5150 album on his guitar. And I really like that sound. And this is very, very close to it. That's still fairly dry. I've got no EQ. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've got the EQ turned off, the delay, and the reverb turned off right now. I'm not sure if the amp is actually overdriving the microphone in this crappy little camera that I'm using, but let's turn on. I'm going to turn off the distortion for a second, and we'll let you hear the EQ. And this is an overall EQ that covers everything. It covers, it's sort of, it looks like it's last in the loop chain, but it's not. It's actually, the EQ comes into play before, it comes in after the preamp and covers everything beyond. So, but we'll add the delay. I've got a nice, simple sort of analog delay or digital delay in there. And I've got a spring reverb in here right now, kind of an old-style Fender spring reverb, which is pretty tasty. I'll turn the delay off so you can hear the... And I've kind of changed over the years. I don't mind a little delay, but I don't want to get my sound all, muddied up in reverb. I'll have a little in there most of the time, but for the most part, I want it down kind of low. Now we'll add the delay back in, and our EQ is in, and now we'll add the distortion one more time. Turn the compressor off and the harmonist off, or the pitch shift off for a second. Now, you may not be crazy about that distortion, right? That's modeled after a Proco Rat. I don't know how many of you had one. I had one. It was a very, very hot distortion pedal in the 80s. We're going to go to something maybe a little less over the top. We're going to go with an old-style Boss distortion pedal. I don't remember if you remember, I think it was called the DS1 or something, just your basic distortion pedal. And it's a little bit smoother. It's not as bright. solid sound, pretty decent sound. Now we'll grab an old overdrive sound, not quite as intense. And this again is based on an old Boss pedal. I think it was the OD1 or something like that, and it's a little smoother. It's more reminiscent of sort of 70s style overdrive. That's one of my favorite bass patches. Now I'm going to turn everything off, but the reverb, we're going to change the preamp, and instead of using a clean amp, we're going to go to, it's an old Marshall JTM 45, the Plexi, one of the most probably storied and recognizable amps of the past. And we're going to pull the gain up on this because we want gain on this one. We're going to go a little, I think it's a little over half. I think I'm usually around 60. Pull back on the bass on the amp, the EQ on the amp. The bass is a little heavy, so we're going to go up to about 60. All right, now this is a good sound, but it's not, as crunchy sometimes as I like. So what we're going to do, in the spot where we would normally put an overdrive or a distortion pedal, what we're going to do is we're going to add a tube screamer, and this is just like the classic tube screamer. Oh gosh, I forget who made it, but it was the T909 or something like that, or TS909, and we're going to put that in. We're going to bring the gain down a little more on the amp, on the JTM 45 to about half, and then we're going to put the gain, the drive on the tube screamer up to about 90, and really let that thing sing. Might be a little much on the drive, so we'll bring the drive down to about 70 and see how that sounds. Alright, we've got that. That's awfully, it's a little bit hotter than I really would like, and the tone's a little weird. Plus, I'm not using my big guitar amp. I'm actually using my keyboard amp, which has an enhanced low end, because it's, the lows on a keyboard are obviously much lower than a guitar. So I'm using my keyboard amp right now because it's got a good low response, a good high response, but it's also got an enhanced low response that a guitar amp wouldn't have. So the low end is a little, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a little mushy for the amp, but on most of it, it sounds pretty good. I have plugged it into my guitar amp. I've done that, and it sounds pretty awesome. But I plugged it into my guitar amp, which has, it's got the enhanced high end, but it doesn't really have much low end response because it's for guitar. this pedal is amazing. It gives me a lot of different options. And again, I mean, I talked about all the neat little functions it has with the control pedal and with all the, the ways that you can select patches, or you can use it to select effects and stuff like that. It's really, really great. It's unbelievable. And this thing just gets incredible sound. All right? Just incredible. So, there's another quick little video on how good this pedal is. It's awesome. So, I may do another video with the guitar, set up with the guitar amp, and then I'll just let you guys hear the full-on, effect chain with the amp, and I'll probably I think I'm going to wind up using this pedal less as a processor necessarily, skipping through patches. I will probably put together a couple of patches that allow me to then switch into manual mode and just use it in stomp box mode, so I can turn certain effects on and off, because that's just outstanding. Alright, so that's all for now.